Houston, Texas, 2001. Thousands of ordinary American workers wake up and check their retirement accounts. The accounts are empty, not reduced, not damaged, empty, gone. Every dollar they saved for 30 years vanished overnight. Their company had told them everything was fine. Their CEO had told them to keep buying stock. Their accountants had signed off everything. But it was all a lie. Every number, every report, every press conference, every smile. A carefully constructed fiction worth $60 billion. This is the story of Enron, the most audacious corporate fraud in American history. And the man who built it went to work every single day in a gleaming glass tower, knowing exactly what they were doing. Houston, Texas. 1985, two natural gas pipeline companies merged to form a new corporation. They called it Enron. The CEO is a man named Kenneth Lay, charming, well-connected, a friend of presidents and senators. Enron starts a simple business, moving natural gas through pipeline across America. Boring, reliable, profitable. But Kenneth Lay had bigger ambitions. He wanted Enron to be more than a pipeline company. He wanted it to the future of American energy, and he hired a man who would make that happen. His name was Zachary Skilling, and he was possibly the most dangerous kind of person in the world. He was the smartest man in every room he ever entered, and he knew it. Zachary Skilling had an idea that would change everything. Instead of simply moving gas through pipes, why not trade energy like a stock? Buy and sell electricity, natural gas, broadband, weather derivatives, anything. Turn Enron from a boring pipeline company into a world's greatest energy trading firm. The idea was revolutionary. Washington loved it. Wall Street loved it. The media loved it. Fortune magazine named Enron America's most innovative company 6 years in a row. Enron's stock price exploded from $10 in 1990 to $90 in 2000. Employees poured their entire retirement savings into Enron stock. Why wouldn't they? Their company was the future. Their CEO told them so every single day. But behind the gleaming Houston headquarters, something monstrous was being constructed. Enron was not actually making money. It was pretending to. Zachary Skilling had discovered a legal but deeply deceptive accounting trick called mark-to-market accounting. Instead of recording actual profits, Enron could record projected future profits immediately, today, right now, even if the money never actually arrived. So Enron would sign a contract worth $100 million over 20 years and record all 100 million as profit today. On paper, Enron looked like the most profitable company in America. In reality, it was hemorrhaging money, and the losses were being hidden in hundreds of fake shell companies created specifically to make Enron's balance sheet look clean. The man who designed this system, Andrew Fastow, would later go to prison for it. Inside Enron, a culture had developed that would disturb most human beings. Employees were ranked every year on a scale on 1 to 5. The bottom 15%, regardless to actual performance, were fired. Every single year, it was called rank and yak. The pressure was unbearable. Everyone lied. Everyone inflated numbers. Everyone covered for everyone else. Because the alternative was losing everything. Meanwhile, the executives at top were selling their own Enron stock by millions, quietly, carefully, legally, while publicly telling employees and investors that Enron had never been stronger. Kenneth Lay sold 300 million of his own Enron stock between 1998 and 2001, while telling his employees to buy more. In 2000 and 2001, California experienced a devastating energy crisis. Electricity price exploded. Rolling blackouts swept across the state. Hospitals lost power. Traffic lights went dark. Elderly people died in the summer heat without air conditioning. It was a humanitarian disaster, and Enron caused it deliberately. Internal recordings later revealed Enron traders actually laughing, as they manipulated California's energy market, deliberately creating fake shortages, shutting down power plants for maintenance, driving prices to artificial highs. One trader was recorded saying he wanted to steal money from California grandmothers. These were not raw employees. This was company strategy, approved at the highest levels. August 2001, a journalist named Bethany McLean asks a simple question. How exactly does Enron make its money? Nobody at Enron can answer. The question spreads. Other journalists start asking. Analysts start looking closer. And what they find is nothing. Behind the $60 billion valuation, there is almost nothing real. In October 2001, Enron announces a loss of $618 million. The stock begins falling, then falling faster, then collapsing. Employees watch their retirement saving disappears in real time. They were not allowed to sell their Enron stock during the collapse. Their accounts were frozen while executives sold everything they had. On 2nd December 2001, Enron filed for bankruptcy. At the time, the largest bankruptcy in American history. 20,000 people lost their jobs the same day. What followed was one of the most dramatic criminal investigations in American corporate history. Arthur Andersen, Enron's accounting firm and one of the largest in the world, was caught shredding documents. Entire truckloads of evidence destroyed. Arthur Andersen was convicted of obstruction of justice and ceased to exist. One of the biggest accounting firms on earth, gone. Jeffrey Skilling was convicted of federal felony charges, sentences to 24 years in prison, later reduced to 14 years. Andrew Fasto, the man who designed the fraud, sentenced to 6 years. Kenneth Lay, convicted on all 6 counts of fraud and conspiracy. He died of a heart attack before sentencing. Some said it was the most convenient death in American corporate history. But the real story of Enron is not about the criminals who went to prison. It is about the people who never recovered. Linda Lay, Kenneth Lay's wife, went on television days after the collapse and said the family was quote, nearly bankrupt. She was asking for sympathy, while thousands of Enron employees had lost their entire life savings. People who had worked for Enron for 20 and 30 years. People who had trusted their company completely. A 62-year-old accountant named John who lost his entire $1.3 million retirement fund. A secretary named Barbara who's lost $700,000 she had saved over an entire career. People who could no longer retire. People who had to sell their homes. People who went back to work at 65 because everything they had built was gone. Enron had a motto. It was printed on every company document, stamped on every wall, embroidered on every corporate gift. The motto was, ask why. The company that told to the world to ask why was built entirely on the assumption that nobody would. And for 15 years, nobody did. The banks didn't ask why. The accountants didn't ask why. The regulators didn't ask why. The journalists didn't ask why. The employees didn't ask why. And $60 billion of ordinary Americans' money disappeared into the pockets of men who are today living comfortable lives. Some are even advising their companies. The most important lesson of Enron is not about accounting tricks or corporate fraud. It is about what happens when an entire system, from government to media to finance, decides that asking why is less important than watching the number go up. Ask why, always, because the next Enron is already out there right now, waiting for you to stop asking.